Hi, I'm Scott Hamilton, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for your ears, talking about the 2010 film, The Crazies. Really enjoyed this one, too. The short version is this is one of those few remakes that tops the original easily. Easily. Now, it's a remake of a George A. Romero film from 1973. So obviously Romero's film may have a bit more political import woven into it, but it was low budget, it was what it was. A lot of people I never saw the movie until I think they released it on DVD, maybe Blu-ray. I had never even heard of Crazies. And it is George A. Romero's most popular non-zombie movie about an outbreak in a small town of a disease that makes people crazy, a virus, and the military comes in and shuts down the town, so to speak. The authorities come in and shut everything down. So it was ripe for a remake, in my opinion, and back in 2010, when some of the smaller studios like Lionsgate and Summit and the others were grabbing up other properties to remake them, they got Breck Eisner to make this, gave him $20 million, and which is a lot more money than the original had. And they even got George A. Romero to executive produce the film. Movie went on to make $55 million. Mark Isham did the music. He's what a great composer. It's lean, mean, well made, gets started when it starts, good all the way to the end. Rotten Tomatoes liked it. Most people liked it. Grossed decent amount of money. Nobody ever talks about it anymore. So it's somewhere between a science fiction and a horror movie. I mean, it's definitely got horror elements of people getting stabbed, eviscerated, cut apart, chopped. It is definitely rated R. But the science fiction aspect of it is, this outbreak of, and the movie just starts. I had not seen it in several years. It's one of those in my collection that I put off to the side. I used to buy a lot of movies, and if I really like something, it goes into the short stack of stays with me, because I've moved around a lot. Some things I've had to keep in storage, and if there's movies that I wanted to be able to pull out at any time, this went on that short stack. And it's been so long since I watched it, I really couldn't remember why. Just that I liked it. I mean, Timothy Olyphant's great actor. He does well. Radha Mitchell is in it. Danielle Pennebecker. It's a really good remake, and it's a good sci-fi horror movie. This. Well, I don't want to get into spoilers, but what happens to the townspeople? The movie opens with a shot of the town on fire and destroyed, and says 2 days earlier, and then cuts to a baseball game. And you meet characters. You know who the sheriff is. You know who the mayor is. You know who the principal is, the coach of instantly by just what they say and what they're wearing. And then this event happens, and it's in the trailer. A guy walks out on the field with a shotgun, and they've got to deal with it. And they have no idea why and how they come to these intelligent, realizations of how this thing, where it came from, where it's spreading. The movie plays all that out while things are starting to get worse over the 2 days that it kind of covers. This biological agent as it works through its way through the town, and people start to lose their minds. I did not go back and rewatch the original when I wanted to rewatch this remake, because I remember the original well. It's a great idea, and if you like, George A. Romero films, it's a good George A. Romero film. I find his movies a bit on the dry side. I've liked some of them. Night of the Living Dead is obviously my favorite, but that was kind of lightning in a bottle too, that he tried to recapture a couple times. Later in life, I liked Monkey Shines. I thought he did a pretty good job directing that. Funny, when I was getting rid of some old books, I was donating them, some paperbacks. I keep hardbacks most of the time. That's genius because they're heavier. But I was getting rid of some paperbacks, and I have the original paperback of The Stand. And it had a sticker that was printed on the paperback. It's not a sticker it looks like a sticker, but it's actually part of the print job. And it says, "Soon to be a major motion picture by George A. Romero." Yeah, The Stand was going to get made into a movie by George Romero, and it never, ever happened. So anyway, that book is donated somewhere and probably wound up in a library if you're on the lookout for it. But I gotta say, the modern version of this film holds up really well. Even 11 years later, you could totally see this happening, and the reactions of the government and the townspeople are still pretty spot on how things would go in a small town. It's a small town of, a little over 1,200 people. But I like the way it begins. I like the way it ends. I like that Breck was doing some pretty flashy direction for what's basically a low-budget horror movie. And all the money's on the screen. It doesn't look like a $20 million movie by its its brethren that came out at the time. It really looks like a high-end movie with good actors, good cinematography, great music, great tension that just builds, and endings and I say endings because there's endings for the characters, and then the movie kind of carries on with what's going on, and I liked it. I was like, wow, I don't remember that's how it ended. Very cool. So they never made a sequel to it, and it was prime for one, actually, even though a few characters survived the first film. But if you've never seen it, watch it. It's a good, not just a good remake, but a good sci-fi horror film about a biological weapon that gets released in a small town and what happens to the small town. And there have been quite a few of these kind of movies. Was it Warning Sign back in the late 80s? Was one biological contagion like this got out within a scientific facility out in the desert, and people started going crazy and stuff. That was a pretty good movie that got released on Blu-ray about a year ago, and I didn't pick it up because that one doesn't hold up as well. But this one, being a modern 2010 film, holds up well. Check out The Crazies from Breck Eisner. It's a great role from a young Timothy Olyphant. Well, I mean, he looks younger. He's a little more grizzled now on Justified and Mandalorian, but he was great back then, and he's great as the sheriff who takes no crap, but he's the nice guy. Really enjoyed the film this time, and really wasn't expecting. I mean, yes, I've always liked the movie, but really liked the movie. It's an adult sci-fi horror film that's not cheesy. It's really well made and well done. So check out The Crazies if you're going back through films you haven't watched in a while or never seen. I highly recommend it. I'm Scott Hamilton. My website is therockfile.com, where you can find links to my other projects. Please like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for listening.